I guess I'm special.
Okay, so we'd like to welcome everybody to the February meeting of the Templeton Community Preservation Committee. Everybody should have a copy of the agenda. We have 5 members present here and 1 on Zoom. So when we do votes, we will do roll call votes. We are anticipating 1 more person zooming in if that all works out, but we do have a quorum and we're ready to rock and roll. So everybody has a nice copy of the minutes prepared by Jessica. She sent them out shortly after the meeting, and then we have them here again with us right now. So if everybody will take a chance to review that, we can, accept them or not, or edit or make any changes. It all looks good to me.
I make a motion, we accept the meetings as written.
Okay, a motion's been made by George to accept the minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second. Oh.
Motion's been made, seconded and thirded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll do the roll call vote. All those in favor, George,
Yes,
Carrie,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
How about yes, Candace?
Yes.
Okay, these are unanimously approved. Very good. The big item for tonight is to discuss the annual town meeting warrant. In your packet, you have a summary of the projects that we have been speaking about, and we sent this out so that everybody had a chance to look at it before. We'll go over those individually. The first one on the list is the annual appropriation. This is the article that indicates the anticipated revenues through the CPA surcharge and the state match, and then the allocation as indicated to the different percentages to the different sub accounts. And so these numbers come from, the last year, $265,000 was billed. And the billing of the prior year is what they set the match on. They don't worry about whether everybody's paid that or it's had an abatement. So that becomes the benchmark for the match. Then that number is reduced by abatements. People are eligible to apply for abatements like they would with any tax bill. And, then there's always delinquent accounts that eventually get caught up or whatever. So looking at those numbers and speaking with our town accountant and, getting the info from Luann, the base figure of $510,000 is anticipated. And once again, that's dependent upon, the state match, which can change, but has been 100% the last few years. I think 7 of the last 8 years, it's been 100%. So this is by voting this at town meeting, that allows us to spend the money in the current fiscal year and not have to wait until next year to spend it. Regardless of the monies that come in, they get allocated apportionally throughout the year based upon these percentages, which we have an administrative account, which is 5% of the total, or projected to be 25,500. The historic reserves account is 10%, 51,000, as is the community housing reserve and the open space and recreation reserve. And then the balance goes into what is called the general unbudgeted reserve, which is 65% of the total, and that's $331,500. So what this means is that we anticipate $510,000 coming in the fiscal year 2024, and that it will be allocated into these sub accounts that specifically any historic project needs to come out of, only historic projects can be paid by historic, housing out of housing, open space out of open space, and then the unbudgeted reserve can be used for any of those expenses for related projects. So we have to approve an article and submit it to the select board. Any discussion on this?
I just wonder why we're doing it now instead of the fall. You said because
We always do it for the annual town meeting.
I thought we always did it for the fall.
No, it's at it's always at the annual because That's what it's, when it, it starts with the new fiscal year.
We're kind of like spending on credit, right?
No, well, because we still have surplus balances, we may or may not
Yeah.
even be spending this, but yes. If we were to exhaust what we currently have, then we would be spending anticipated monies.
If we don't get the anticipated money, we're,
Right, we've never been that close.
okay.
If you look at that other sheet, you'll see that we still have available.
I'm just being.
Quite a bit.
Well, I know that, which is good and appreciated.
Mm.
Right now, we have about $1.6 million going into the current year
Okay, so,
in a quick calculation. So you can see our undesignated actual on hand is $1.3 million. Now, we're going to talk about articles today that come out to $294,000. So that even that is significantly less than we anticipate receiving this year,
yeah,
but we have multiple times that already in the bank.
okay. yeah.
So this is nice that we were able to get this report, thanks to Jessica working with Kelly on that. So yes, we always do this, and that just sets it up so we're ready to rock and roll. It also gives the townspeople an indication of the scale of funds that we're receiving, so that when the other questions come up about the expenditures of the projects, they'll know that we're, writing checks we can cash.
Okay,
Are these percentages set by the act itself? Okay,
So we could do more than the 10% of each,
okay,
but we're required to do 10% in the historic, 10% in the community housing, 10% in the open space. And we're only allowed to maximum of 5% for the administrative costs.
Okay.
So if we wanted to pigeonhole it all for historic, we could put 75% in historic,
okay.
but that would be foolish
It would
because,
be, yeah.
okay.
Okay, I was just curious.
okay, so you need a motion to
Yep.
present the expenditures. I'll make a motion that we place an article on the town meeting warrant for the splitting up of the funding that we expect to get for in each of the four respective accounts.
Okay, motion's been made to submit this article to the select board as written, essentially, right? And seconded by Carrie. Any discussion? Okay, and so, this is based on an estimate. It really depends on what the monies are that we receive, but they've always, come pretty true to form. So hearing no discussion, we'll do a roll call vote, starting with George,
Yes,
Carrie,
Yes,
Joanne,
Yes,
Dennis.
Yes,
I'll vote yes, and Candace.
yes.
So unanimously approved. Check. Okay, so, now when I typed up the next four projects, I put them alphabetically, but then on the sheets that you have here, the summaries, they're not in the same format, but the first one we'll take is the Baptist Common Cemetery access, and this is there's some additional information on that for you, which includes the maps. The cemetery commissioners have come to us indicating they were looking for a sign and a way to promote access to the Baptist Common Cemetery. There had been discussion about doing it via public land, private land. But upon reviewing the plot plan for the parcel that includes the town barn, you can see that the town actually owns a significant amount of frontage on Baldwinville Road. So we went down there with the cemetery commissioner, Joe, and a representative from the highway who does a lot of the maintenance for the crews. Jessica and I and George from conservation, also in a butter, came down there and walked, and you could see that easily a trail could be put on town land that would come from Baldwinville Road. And this would be, if you're familiar with the geography here, there's a big puddle, a big swamp, big wetland. But to the right of that, as you're facing at it, or to the south, is a significant swath of land that is available flat and owned by the town. And you could see, if you look at this parcel map, you could go straight back, and then it doglegs to the right, and then that funky looking quadrilateral, whatever the heck shape that is the actual cemetery.
Quadrilateral.
Quadrilateral. Okay, thank you to our math major.
Also, I want to add that there's a cut in the road there too, so if you drive by, you'll see where that access is.
Yeah, and I guess historically they've parked there and done some work there. The town has, so there is already a cut in the driveway. We've talked about the conservation aspect, and you're allowed to do a walking trail 3 feet or less without filing, but we would go through I believe the
RDA.
RDA process for a request for determination to make sure we follow that up to snuff. And so we also spoke about the need to delineate the boundary in a fashion that was, pleasing to the eye. We don't want to put a chain link fence to go to an old cemetery. So we talked about doing a split rail fence that worked good for the person who would mow it, because you can, actually mow under them. And so we got some pricing on, Jessica calculated the proposed distance, which would allow us to put a boundary all the way along the edge on one side between the private landowner's home and the town land, and then go all the way back, and then also to put a boundary around the cemetery so that people wouldn't migrate back into private lands. And so whether this becomes the full length of fencing or not would be determined, once, we get out there again and get it all mapped out, but we determined the pricing based on that approximate 900-foot distance. And so that would be like Western red cedar is a commonly used split rail material, 2 rails and end posts. So we got pricing on that. We're also obviously going to need to make sure the survey is up to snuff, and we may need to put some pins in there and work with the abutters to make sure they know where the boundaries are. We also, I've spoke about, actually doing a GIS layer on a mapping so that we could, have it in good form. I think it'd be, so that's why there's money put in there for that. And then an additional tree work and chipping. Some trees may need to be cut. Certainly some brush would need to be cut, and some wood branches could be chipped. So we put in 2 days of a professional tree service. And we also added, in case it may or may not need a police detail there for the work, because it's, yeah. So we used last year was $800 a day as an estimate for a police detail. So we put it for 2 days. Now, yeah. Yeah, and then so that came up to this value, and I had put a line in there for additional materials required for landscaping, but I didn't put a dollar amount in there. But if you tally those things up on this sheet, you'll see a subtotal of $32,824 estimated for the project. And because we always need to have a contingency in there we have to go through processes to procure services and goods. Prices change. Estimates are only as good for the time you got them by the time we roll the project. So I added a 15% contingency to come up with a total cost of $37,748. Okay, and that's on this summary page. And the project we call Baptist Common Cemetery Access and Signage. I should have mentioned that it also includes a large sign on Baldenville Road that people could see that matches the sign that they have at the Common Burial Ground. And then another sign interior to kind of talk about the cemetery. So there's $5,150 budgeted for that. And that's where those totals come from. This is both a historic preservation. This is a historic cemetery and an open space project. So that's the category. If you look at this sheet with the monies available to be spent, you will see for our open space budget, we actually have $100,000 available currently, and we're projecting another $50,000. So we could spend up to $151,260. And then for the historic, we have $63,580 with an estimated 51,000 more, meaning $114,000 available. And then the unbudgeted reserve, we have $1.3 million with a potential of $331,000 coming in the coming year. So what we would do tonight is if the committee decides to move forward, we will just vote the article, which will include the dollar figure. And then the language will include, whether it comes off from open space or if it's split by the unbudgeted, because we have to kind of see what all get voted on before we can allocate from each account. But that's just a bookkeeping thing.
Right. So we can use some of the money from the unbudgeted even, so because we have a few open spaces here tonight, so we're probably gonna have to, if we were to, let's just say if we were to do them, we would have to, all of them, then we would be having to go into that unbudgeted.
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
Yep. No, that's good.
That
And,
would
you know,
affect my.
That's the case. So there's, and then, so subsequent typically, like, the open space reserve account can be used for recreation, but the unbudgeted reserve is kind of recreation. It's, which is the recreation project you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can go through these four, or we can vote them individually. If you want to go through them all first, or
We can go through them all first if you guys want.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Then just vote
Okay.
them all at the end.
all right, the next project listed is the Dwelly Farm ongoing restoration. We got a full packet from North County Land Trust, Emily Merlino, and they are looking to continue the work that they've been doing of removing invasives and planting native species on the property that is owned by the North County Land Trust, but has a conservation restriction held by the town. On a side note, the closing out the current project included the purchase of a sign, which we now have in our possession, and Bob's crew will put it in when the ground's not frozen or sometime convenient. So basically what they're looking to do is to continue their habitat improvement and invasive plant management work at the Dwelly Farm Conservation Area. Funds will enable continued invasive plant management work over the next 3 years. This work is to include assessment of the remaining 35 acres of the property for invasive plants. Additional work includes public outreach within community and coordination of volunteer efforts for replanting native species and manual removal of invasives in some areas. Some places they've just had to have volunteers come in and pull plants by hand. Last year, I think they documented like 360 hours of volunteer time on the project. So you'll see on the right side of the sheet, their total funding request is $36,224. They also have secured a grant of $12,299 from the Mass Fish and Wildlife Habitat Management Grant. So they are looking to do, $48,623 worth of work. So they are leveraging our work by getting additional funds, which is something we always encourage. Other leverage will include the volunteers who start seedlings and plant and transplant seedlings. They do a lot of work, as I said, like at least 360 hours last year. And then this year, and they're also looking to put 4 benches in along the trails. So the materials for that would be purchased through this fund, but the building would be done by volunteers. They're also looking to do more outreach with the school system locally. And so they put in some money to help facilitate, outreach, which could be making flyer materials, but also if we were able to, for example, get some kids from the elementary school to come up there to show them around and maybe buy them some food.
And
things
we're
like that.
already, we have a couple scout groups that are going up there and identifying plants, and they're also going to be planting this summer.
Oh, good. So the scouts are also volunteering some
Yes.
time and everything.
Do you plan on replacing or planting any trees?
At this point, they're not indicating any tree planting.
No, we've been doing bushes that we got from the conservation district, but no trees per se.
Okay, because right now, Mass Tree Warden Association, every year they have a seedling program for Arbor Day, and they have to give you a great deal on seedlings. They could be up to 6-8 inches high, so.
Okay, that's good to know, Bob. Basically, Bob has indicated that as the tree warden, he knows of some opportunities to get some seedlings. That may be something that, they'll have the flexibility to choose to do that. Some native trees are great. I should also point out that Carrie Novak on this committee also is a board member for North County Land Trust, the advocate for this, and that's her reference.
And I also grow a lot of plants, but those are all donated.
Yeah, she's one of those volunteers that does a lot of the seedling growth. So that's that project. There is a detailed breakdown of the proposed cost, but let's go through these other two and then see what we need to share next. The next item is the Templeton Grange Hall ADA bathrooms. The Narragansett Historical Society is the advocate for this. They have been working on the rehabilitation of the Templeton Grange Hall over on Hubbardson Road in Templeton. They've made great progress this year. I took a tour of it most recently to see the work that's been done upstairs. They did the handicapped access for egress to the back. Now they're looking to they have some, vintage bathroom fixture stall things that they're looking to take out. And one of the things that we as a committee need to support for these projects is to be compliant with the American with Disabilities Acts and to provide access to all. So if they are going to have bathrooms for the public, they must have an ADA compliant one. And so they have a men's and a women's room right now. The discussion was to have two separate bathrooms, no gender neutral bathrooms. In other words, one would be an ADA because that takes a lot of space to have all the access and things like that. And the other one would be not ADA because 2/3 of the room will be taken up by the ADA and 1/3. And as many of you see in public buildings these days, it's just like vacant or unvacant, it doesn't matter, boys or girls. So, they are looking for $80,000 to go forward on that. They're projecting a cost of $90,000, but they have some additional funds. They've been doing fundraising through the Community Foundation of Northern Worcester County, and they've also gotten an anonymous donation, things like that. So this is the natural progression of that project to make it open to the public. In the future, we will probably, because they're doing some work upstairs, we will also need to be talking about an elevator to be ADA compliant to access the upstairs, but this would be on a ground floor accessible by the handicapped ramp. Okay, and so we're just going through all of them and then we'll.
Oh, I thought they were gonna get some other monies this year. This time frame, they were talking about that they weren't I was under the impression that they weren't gonna ask us for some money this past.
I agree.
I don't remember this when we took
When we talked with them about the big project that they had in mind and they were just asking for a little bit of money, they seemed so optimistic that they had that all
yeah,
in that.
This
So I was
was
a little
fun.
surprised to see.
yeah, me too.
Yes, it did come in right at the wire, knowing that, after I met with Brian at the site and we talked about it and he showed me, it is an expensive project
Oh, absolutely.
ongoing. This would be a necessary step to make it available to the public. Having publicly available bathrooms on the common is a good thing, given all the other functions that go on, regularly. They are actively fundraising and trying to raise money. It is a shoestring operation to some extent in terms of a lot of volunteers spending their time. They have no paid staff.
Right.
And so here's an opportunity to continue to support this. And it's really focused on something that is a requirement for access, which is the, ADA. Otherwise, there's no bathrooms.
Yeah.
So that's where that came in. And I know what you're saying, that this
Well,
wasn't indicated. that
I
it was
know they've
coming.
done a lot up in the stage. They've gotten to the point they're gonna put the drapes up. They were looking for ladders recently. People to donate those big giant ladders to put it up. They did the painting. They've done a bunch of stuff in there. And I was just wondering, when do they get to the point, like they're gonna do this? I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the building downstairs is only my concern. I hope they're gonna get rid of some of the stuff so that people can enjoy the building, when it gets to that point where people can enjoy it.
Yeah, you know, it
There's a
certainly has
lot,
done a
yeah.
lot of storage, but they certainly
Seems
have,
like a list of first thing right
there's a
now.
lot of moving pieces too, and you're working on projects.
Mm,
The need for an elevator is going to also be very essential
Yeah,
for the building to be fully compliant. And that's going to be an extremely expensive
It is.
investment.
Yeah.
I wonder if
yeah.
shouldn't be doing that first and the bathrooms, if we make the elevator and the
Well, if you
bathroom.
don't hold a function upstairs yet, the bathrooms are on the main floor,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, at least public can enjoy the first floor,
Yeah,
but without the bathrooms, they can't do
I
that.
don't
But
know.
the second floor is where they're actually made the most progress at this point.
Yeah,
That's the whole thing.
Yeah,
That's what you're saying is, yeah, because I've seen the pictures online and they've made significant progress since the last time we've been in the,
right.
when we went. It's
Mm.
amazing, the stuff that they showed. But now it's just like if you were handicapped, you can't get upstairs.
yeah.
Yeah,
The other side of
but
the
then you need a bathroom.
point is that the bathroom at the main building are not and won't ever be handicap accessible. So for any historical society functions, this at least provides.
Oh,
I
okay.
guess it's a mixed
Yeah,
bag.
Yeah.
Well,
I
you
just
know,
was trying to see in the future where they see us going with it, like how many more times because I felt like when we were on the floor in the fall, it seemed like that the drapes was it and they were getting this big funding coming in. That's how I felt when I was at that,
Yeah.
when they came here and then we went to the floor for the town meeting, that's where I thought they were going with this. I didn't really, I was really shocked when I seen this.
Yeah. And the questions at the town meeting were along that line too, because they showed what was the whole budget, 750 or I don't know,
Yeah,
it
it
was a
was-
huge number.
Yeah,
And they were asking for a relatively small number and they said, well, okay, what about the rest of it? I don't know. I don't know who their project manager is, if it's Brian trying to be the project manager and the jack of all trades, probably.
Yes,
Can a building be used without access to the second floor? Even though it's part of the.
yeah, I mean, as you remember from being in there the last time, I mean, the ground floor, they don't have a lot of exhibit on the ground floor.
Right, it's more.
It's
for-
more of the kitchen, they
Right.
used to have the church sup or the the Grange suppers and things like that.
Right.
And the kitchen itself is another big, huge item that they're gonna have to
Well,
fund to get fixed.
well, if you look at the senior center, they don't have the kitchen done. They did most of the building. So if you go into the building on the left-hand side, you have that big open space room, which is right now with a lot of historical stuff being stored there currently. And I'm just wondering what the plan is, how to get some of that stuff will not be able to stay in the building. So I'm wondering where it's going. Because you can't use that space. And then the kitchen, they talked about doing that, but you can still open that to the public even without the kitchen.
Yes, absolutely.
You can just
Yeah.
keep that stuff like they did the senior center where, that's not a big space. So even a lot of that stuff they got some big ticket, giant things in that middle room. And now you got the stairs that probably need to have some work done. You're looking at the stairs, but the upstairs, they've done dramatic amount of work to it. It's like, that's when you think, you're like, okay, well, this is gonna be ready to open up the stairs before anything
It's.
yeah, it's kind of
think like
surprising
it-
to me.
They're saying it should probably. We got the handicap access to the building. The next thing probably should have been the access to the second floor.
Mm,
Plus, are we confident that these numbers are good?
yeah,
I mean, if there's no breakdown, so do we know, are they gonna start the bathrooms and then, oh, we didn't project enough, or, or maybe these numbers are great, I don't know.
yeah. It's just a lot of questions that people in the town are gonna ask when
Absolutely.
if this gets on the floor.
Yeah.
They're gonna wanna know all these things. I mean,
Okay, so this is all good comments and good discussion. We can certainly, we are responsible to do what we think is best for the town under CPA, and that includes timing of things. And, asking for more information. we know we're under the gun right now if we were gonna put something for a May town meeting. But we also know that there's also will be a fall town meeting. So that's another thing. When we get to voting on each of these, we can discuss that further. Let's go to the next project and then we'll come back to it
Okay,
and we can take it whatever people want, the
All right, fair enough.
committee decides.
that sounds good.
So the fourth project listed is the resurfacing of the Gilman Waite tennis courts and replacing of the fences. Bob got some quotes. So there are two, basically, the tennis courts up there represents 1,152 square yards of area. And so this company, New England Seal Coating, provided a proposal to furnish all the labor, material, and equipment to pulverize and remove and replace the old tennis courts and furnish and apply a 4-coat acrylic surface system to bituminous concrete surface preparation. Basically, they would remove the existing stuff, grade it out, and lay down a new course, and then lay acrylic on top of it, 4 coats of that. The acrylic is a synthetic resin material that's recommended by the tennis world. Then they would also install 2 sets of tennis posts and nets. They would do a layout mask and stripe 2 tennis and 2 pickleball playing lines with a paintbrush and clean it up. They will require the town to take down the existing fence to allow access. As part of this, it says, yeah. So they came up with a figure of $81,844 to basically put the courts in place, including 2 tennis nets and the high quality surface. There for an additional $4,000, and this is where I was a little confused, and maybe Bob, you can help us with this. $4,686 would be to convert 1 tennis court to 2 pickleball courts with pickleball net posts and nets.
So originally, Canada's talking about having 1 pickle court in tennis. And the way the research I did, the pickleball is getting so popular. And it actually is gonna have tournaments and stuff, so there'll be 2 courts. You can convert the tennis or pickleball at your leisure. I mean, it's gonna be all set up.
Well, you can have one set up to ready to go for tennis and one could be set up for pickleball. And then if you had like a tournament, then they can, if the tournament's pickleball, the other one goes down and then vice versa.
Yeah, you
Type of
can
thing,
set
yeah.
both for pickleball or both for
Tennis,
tennis,
yeah.
or one or the other.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but pickleball is half the court. So 1 tennis court can be 2 pickleballs.
Right, that's just an line painting on the pavement where you'll see the difference whether you're playing pickleball or tennis.
So you could conceivably have 4 pickleball matches or 2 tennis or a combination.
I think 2 pickle. and
Yeah.
2 tennis.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
2 pickle and 2 tennis. Yeah, we're not gonna go that crazy.
Okay, so that was, then they also, Bob also got pricing from a fence company. And of course, when we get pricing, this kind of gives us an idea what the cost will be. This is what it was when the quote was issued a couple of months ago. We still have to go through the procurement process. If somebody gives us a quote, doesn't mean we're going with them. As a town, we must follow chapter 30 procurement laws, put things out to bid, et cetera, et cetera. So, but without getting somebody who's in the business to tell us how much these things are going to cost, you're pulling numbers out of your hat. So they came up with a figure of $31,700, which would install about 424 feet of 10-foot high chain link fence with 2 4-foot wide gates and an additional 80 feet of 6-foot tall length, which would be kind of like along the access road.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that was $31,700. So if you look at the project summary, which is right here, we also, and let's see, for the budget on that, So on this sheet there, we show $81,844 for the courts, this 4686 pickleball conversion thing, 31,700 for fencing. And then we put $3,000 in for additional materials if there's landscaping or other things. The town will be doing some of the work on the finish. And then we put another contingency in there, which came up to $18,000 of contingency. And that's where the total request of $139,415 comes that is presented. So in each case, you know, we've got these summaries printed out as best as we have them. And you can see the details. We did for the two town projects, wanted to make sure we put the contingency in there. And that's where these numbers came from. So those are the four projects. And do we want to hear about Bob's project too before we vote, or?
Well, I just wanted to say something
Okay.
about the tennis court. I just wanted to say that the fence has to be replaced around it one way or another. It's in bad shape, and the tennis court is in really bad shape. So, I mean, this is a project to resurface. But when someone asked us at one of our meetings on what was the what is it? I'm trying to think of the word. Like long term, like later down the line to
Plan,
fix it, you know, like take care of it.
maintenance.
Maintenance, that's what they asked me, the maintenance. And I'm like, this is the maintenance. This is, yeah, I mean, however old the tennis court is, we're at the maintenance part. I mean, that's what it is.
Budget in your. The rec budget to rethink the court again.
Right.
Different than resealing your driveway at a road.
Well, they'll tell us too, the company that we get that will do the project will tell us what it is they recommend every, you know, for maintenance, how you take care of it. And now that we have Parks and Rec, we'll have a place to keep those records and a place to keep that so that, you know, in Bob's department and everybody will understand how to keep it nice. I mean, the tennis court we had in there, it went there for so many years and stuff. And I don't know what I mean, I'm not going to say knock anybody, but we don't know what the protocol was and what their plan was in longevity. Obviously it got to this point. So, I mean, as a park commissioner, I mean, we're all about making sure that whatever we do in these parks, that the next, you know, that we know what's going to, you know, how you keep it nice, how you, you know, because things cost money to fix and do.
Here, you can't do it. You've got to come down to do the court anyways.
Yeah.
And the chain link fence I said now is actually up against the, I explained before, there's going to be a smaller mesh, like 2 3/4, like 7/8, whatever it was. Because the balls get stuck in the normal size chain link. So it's got to come down for it to be done. And if you don't pull the fence in as well, you might as well not even play because you'll be chasing the ball all over.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so another thing to point out is that, so this acrylic surface is something that can be resurfaced by applying another coat in 10 years or whatever, as opposed to asphalt, which is what it is now, which basically they, you know,
I think it was coated at one point, one
Yeah.
time, but it was not taken care of.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's certain things you're supposed to do to these things and just, yeah.
Do we have an idea as to how old this tennis court is or when it was put in?
I couldn't find anything on it. Any literature and the little bit that I could see about the park. Like if you look at the deed, if you look at, I couldn't really pinpoint where it was.
Who will take care of the equipment, like the netting and,
That will be the park. So that'd be under parks. We're having a new Conex put in. We have to purchase still. But that's where the net will go in the winter. We'll go in.
somebody will be. oversee it.
It'll be taken down, put in there. Yeah. The
Parks
park,
and Recs will be responsible for
making sure it's
for
taken
that,
down.
and Parks and Recs is also. They're putting in a 24 budget to hire a seasonal person to help take care of the parks,
So that's probably who would be taking it down and putting it in the Conex.
but the individual, if we find one, will be overlooking.
yeah, so the maintenance and then the operations and that, even the scheduling and all that stuff will go through Parks and Recreation. All this, all they're looking for is the funding to do the work, and that's what our role would be if we go forward on this.
Yeah.
Theoretically, you're starting out with a new product, bringing it into Templeton. to enjoy, and then we have to figure out what maintenance and how often is gonna be involved. And that will be in Parks and Rec's budget.
But it definitely needs to be done. I mean, the tennis court is just awful. And it's nice too, because it's not that far from the senior center, that park. And so, and pickleball is, and tennis are both, are great exercising things for, you know, for all ages to enjoy. So it's something, I mean, we have a lot of stuff right now. We have the swings, that's like, you know, that's the little ones. And then you have the softball, and that's, you know, who loves softball. But this tennis and the pickleball will give another aspect of people to enjoy the park, you know.
I actually, at the college, it's very popular up there.
Tennis,
No, pickleball.
pickleball.
Pickleball,
Yeah,
yeah.
they have 4 courts and one section of the gym. They're busy all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're making some great progress up to Gilman and Waite. You know, one thing I also want to notice, like the bathroom project that we funded last year, they're just sent out bids to do some more in the next step of that. So the whole complex up there is available as a resource, public bathrooms, you know, concession stands, storage. Natural progression. Dennis, you wanted to?
I can't find it tonight, but I thought I saw something about the fact that this agreement was only for 15 days or
Well,
something.
that's like any quote you get. This is just a snapshot. You'll have to read.
Not gonna get a quote, there's no more 1-year quote.
Okay, so,
Escalation of materials, that's why we allow the 5 and 10%. On top of that.
Yeah,
so we probably want to do
15,
this
yeah, it has the
rather
15,
than later if we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
yeah,
exactly. And so in that budget, we did put a 15% contingency in there based on the quotes we had because of the uncertainties, et cetera, et cetera. The important thing for us to know is like, okay, the funds are available, so we can allocate them for this project. If they're not needed, they just go back to be available for a future project. So the money doesn't go anywhere but for future CPA use. Rather than if we got all the way to the finish line and we're not done yet, then we have to go back to town meeting for another request. So it's always better to ask, you know, try to factor out what you would think would the most money be, so that it's better to give it back than to find out you're short and have to
yeah,
go
because you
back.
don't want to stop the
Good.
project. in the
Because that
middle.
delays everything. Everything takes a lot of time. So that's why it's important that we decide what we want to do for the May town meeting. We'll have other projects for the fall town meeting likely. These are the 4 that we had. What do you guys want to do now?
We can listen to Bob's first, maybe.
That sound
Do
good?
that.
Good evening again. As I mentioned at the last meeting, about the cupola here at the town hall, 2-3 years ago, we did, the architect did a study and wrote up a description on what needs to be done on the cupola, and we had a structural engineer look at it and give us his thoughts. And I remember passing those out to you a few years ago. So I know we all saw the price of 80,000 and we all wanted to puke. Yeah, including me. And ever since then, I know, and I've been up there and I looked inside and outside. And I'm saying to myself, no way, I know I can do this cheaper. So the contractor that I use to do a lot of work in town, he's actually working at Gilman. I gave him a call right after the last meeting. And we finally met up here, and he went up in the attic and up on the roof. I gave him a copy of the report, so he could see what they had written down. And I can't believe the price. I'm excited and ecstatic, and I hope you strongly consider this project now.
So just for everybody's edification, this building here, the old East Templeton School, was rehabilitated for new use as the town hall through CPA funds. And it was deemed to be historically important to the culture of Templeton, and thus it's eligible for CPA funding. Wow.
So,
So that question is answered.
that price you see, that includes the contingency and the materials. Since the last time we talked about it, a year or so ago, it has deteriorated more, so it's gonna be a quite concern. I mean, now I got the chimney that's starting, bricks are starting to fall off of that, so we do have to get up there and give this building some attention.
Would that chimney repointing or whatever be included in this project?
No, that's
this is
separate. I'm
Strictly the
actually-
cupola. And if anybody drives by here, is over at Dunkin' Donuts and looks up at the cupola, you could see what we're talking about. It is dilapidated. It just covers, I believe, exhaust.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
it
some
would
people
be,
might not know what it is, though, what a cupola is.
Mhm.
It's the
Oh.
thing on the top of the building in the middle.
our generations know what it is.
That's right.
People that watch this show probably don't.
But that's gonna be going through and making sure on the framing's all solid, all the trim, all the louvers, bracing, the air shaft and capping the top of that off. Everything's gonna be with cedar, as it was mentioned in the report, and painted 2 or 3 coats of paint, and all debris picked up and everything removed. That includes, he's gonna stage the roof. He doesn't need $10,000 of staging. So I'm very pleased to present that price here.
This is certainly much more in the ballpark.
Yeah,
Yeah, so he's given us a quote for $28,500.
It's crazy, right?
$2,000 cheaper.
I know, it's crazy.
And you know, I believe we have to do something with that
Yeah.
thing, and why
Dangerous.
not do it the right way?
So
I
this
could-
would come out of the historic funds?
It certainly could, yeah,
Yeah.
come either from the historic or the unbudgeted.
Okay,
Yeah, because it would be the rehabilitation of, it's really something that,
And this, this was already, we done this before years ago, so it's already been done, so it's kind of like a,
yeah, it's gone through the whole process.
Okay.
They,
just want to make sure.
everybody choked up when they're
Oh, yeah,
trying to absorb.
okay,
the
so you went to
80,000.
capital planning already?
Well, whenever we first started.
on the
I went
80, yeah.
through-
So we'll need to, that's another thing to point out, that is the other thing that will need to
Sorry,
happen for
no.
the cemetery project. I don't believe that's gone to capital planning.
I don't think it can.
They'll just have to get another meeting.
Because I'd definitely have to look at it, because the historical cemeteries are not covered by town money and free cash. It's,
So,
Well, frankly, the bylaw for capital planning has always been kind of in opposition of the CPA, because this is separate funding, but we have always given them the notification, which is the language of the bylaw. And so we are not proposing necessarily to do things actually at the cemetery anyway. We're doing it, this project is primarily on the town-owned land, which is
Yeah.
separate from the cemetery parcel. That being said, we want to just be upfront and open that, if this needs to go through that process, it's always been the relationship that we have had as CPC with capital planning is the notification process.
yeah,
Because
you might,
it doesn't impact the capital budget of the town because this is separate funds.
but this has gone through.
this one
I
has
presented
already,
this through capital already, and I presented
well, back.
the emergency management bill, all these big money things, and this one's been, I just been bothered with it since.
So
Oh.
this is just a better, but this is just a better deal.
Well, thank you for doing this
lot
more
better
due
deal.
diligence and yeah. And we know everything costs money and everything costs more money than it used to cost.
So would we count this in our number of articles that we're proposing?
That's what we're
Another one, yeah.
here to talk about and to vote. I would certainly
So our number
entertain.
will be up if we
Yeah.
putting this in. I say we put this in.
So it's $28,500. We could, and they do have, it does indicate that there's a 10% construction contingency. So that's $2,800 that they've added into it or some number. We may, because this is just this person's quote, we may even want to round it off if we were to go forward to say $30,000
Yeah.
to give
I
us
think
a little
that's-
bit.
yeah, that would give
Yeah.
you more of a 15%.
Okay.
No,
Okay, and does anybody else have any other projects they want to bring up or discuss tonight?
I'd like to go back to the Historical Society. Did we make a decision on that?
We haven't voted on any of these yet.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah,
we kind of had a lot of questions on that, and I don't want to. I think that maybe I would be in favor of it myself because of the fact that it would at least provide ADA bathrooms for the Historical Society, even though they're in a separate building. I don't know if that's justification for the.
And it's like everything else, you're gonna have to take it in phases, you can't do it all at once.
I just I just think that the next time if they're gonna come to us, I just think that. I just like to know what the rest of the plan is like, to understand it, like, I just would have liked to, I just felt like. I'm either misunderstood or something, cause I just didn't see this coming.
well, I
Yeah,
think it may have been, it's a dynamic situation over there. They've made so much progress. They want to keep the momentum going. And I
Yeah.
think that's what led them to decide to come forward, because originally the indication was not that we would be seeing something.
I just would like to know about the stuff that's in there, like some of the big items, like where are they going? Like how, like,
We have to have
Always
faith
get
that
it.
they're
Yeah.
going to take care of their business that way. We
Yeah.
have to decide whether we want to fund, this additional work.
okay, just gonna be a little.
Yeah,
I think it boils down to, I mean, they have to have this,
I just wish
so.
they had done a budget like the other projects did, rather than just a
Well-
lump sum for the Grange.
They didn't give you a call, it's just one price.
They have a bunch of stuff
Right.
and then a number
Yeah,
and.
Yes, and
I just can see a lot of.
It'd be nice to
this is
see
gonna
them phase out that, come with a plan with the different
Yeah.
phases, that they intend to do, as they go along, to give us a better overall.
Yeah,
of
I mean, there should be
project.
some sort of strategic plan on what the end goal is and the steps to get there and. Cause it's such a big project, you should have some sort of organized plan to get there.
This is when this goes on if this goes on the town floor, they ask a lot of questions and things, and like right now, we have questions, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's like, hopefully, whatever we vote, like, hopefully, if it was to go to the thing that the representative, I guess they'll have to,
I mean, I'm in favor of the
Yeah.
concept
of
of
having bathrooms there.
and knowing how important it is. So that's not a question. I'm in favor of that. And I too. And then there were questions on the floor of the town meeting where like, okay, you're saying that the project is this and this is a little tiny chunk, there's gonna be some questions when this comes back,
Yeah,
when this goes before, and hopefully, Brian will be ready to answer them.
I think maybe we should let Brian know that before they come back with any further requests that.
we like to see more of like the vision.
we certainly can ask them to be providing all, to prepare for the town meeting, because he's gonna have to make the sales pitch. And if we decide to go forward with it, we're coming up with the figure and the general description, but in order for it to get passed, he's gonna have to have a lot of answers ready.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
Some of the ones that we've talked about, but also the project in general, where is it going? And if he comes for the elevator and stuff like
Yeah.
that,
Well, and that's one thing I
That's gonna
spoke to him
be-
about, is because I know that's gonna be a huge ticket item, and that's gonna have to be all fully engineered and approved, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it all depends what kind of elevator you want. Are you going after a real elevator, or are you going after?
outside the building.
And wheelchair up and down.
they're talking about outside it's like outside the building that you can, I guess, when it gets up, it comes, so it's like I think it's very similar to what you see at, when you go to a sporting thing and they have they're up in the bleachers and they have that elevator that, because they have to have elevators now to get up there so that anybody can get up there. And it's outside and it's just a thing you go into and it goes up. It could go something like that.
Material ones as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there isn't a lot of room in the interior of the building to do it unless they took out a staircase or something like that.
So
which-
it's probably gonna be
Yeah.
outside.
For that matter.
Now, they do have access issues related to, they're trying to, get more space there,
Yeah,
but
I don't know how
that's
gonna
not
go.
really going too fast, to get a little adjoining
Yeah.
land.
Just that people are gonna have a lot, we have a lot more questions, so.
Yeah, so, okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go back into,
Vote on 'em.
if everybody's okay with that. Going through them one by one, and we'll go through the list like I had put on the agenda. So the first one is the Baptist Common Cemetery access. So the budget on that is $37,748. Any other questions or discussion on that?
We can't round that to 38.
We certainly could.
I mean, it just, I mean, how, down to the $8.
Whatever the motion is what we'll vote on.
Okay,
Okay, I'll make a motion that we submit to the selectmen a article for work to be done on the Baptist Common Cemetery access at the amount of $38,000.
Okay,
I'll second that.
motion made by Dennis and seconded by Carrie for the Baptist Common Access Project of $38,000. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote, starting with George,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Dennis.
Yes,
I'll vote yes. Candace?
Yes.
Okay, so that's unanimous. The next item is the Dwelly Farm ongoing restoration. The budget on that is $36,224. You have the breakdown of where those all come from. That is to continue the project for the next 3 years of continuing to eliminate invasive plants, work on trails, put in a bench, new plantings of other native plants. Any discussion, any other things to talk about on this one? Okay, so we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we also submit an article or request to the selectmen, put in an article for the Dwelly Farm Conservation Area for work to be done to complete some of the projects up there. Is that-
As described in their project summary.
Yeah,
I second that.
What amount? In what amount?
Oh, what amount?
Are you gonna go with the
oh,
36?
yes,
Or are you gonna round it up?
should we make that 37,000?
Or 36.5 or something.
No.
36,500 then.
$36,500. This one would likely come straight out of the open space because we have, less than we have, that would work out good. Those details, will come in the process. We just need to get the selectmen, the warrant articles.
We got a
Okay, so
second.
motion's been made,
I
36,500, seconded by Joanne. Any other discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote, starting with George,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Dennis.
Yes,
I vote yes. Candace?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous. Okay, the next item is the Gilman Waite tennis court / pickleball courts and fencing project. That one we have earmarked or indicated as a price of $139,415. Likely, this would probably come entirely out of the undesignated budgeted reserve because it's, otherwise we'd be splitting it, but we'll have to. That's really a moot issue to this. The question is whether we want to go forward with this and whether we want to change the number.
I make a motion that we forward the request of resurfacing Gilman Waite tennis courts and fencing replacement with a CPA funding request of $139,500.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded for the Gilman
Yes.
Waite project. Okay,
Yes.
George is ready to vote for that. $139,500, so that's a yes from George. We have a question from the audience?
Candace should sustain from the vote.
Oh, I should sustain from the vote because it's our part. Do you guys do that when it's your
Oh.
project? Because her project would be Dwelly. When
Nobody has any fiscal, reward in this. So, there's conflict of interest is clear when there is a money involvement, but then there's the concern of perception. So
I'll let you use your better judgment, but just
Yep. Yeah, and in my personal opinion is that everybody is, that's the reason that she's on this committee is to support the interests of
Yeah.
the Parks and
I
Rec.
did vote for the bathrooms from Gilman Waite, so I'm just saying that
So,
for the
yeah, I
record.
don't think that there's a question. There is no, she's not contracting the work out. You're not getting
Yeah.
paid to do it.
And I'm only one of how many votes?
But,
So,
yeah,
No, I think that probably should be okay because we're,
Yeah, I mean, she's advocate. That's why she's on this
yeah, that's
committee.
why I'm here for, yeah.
and she's not gonna make any personal
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not, yeah.
out of it.
yeah. So is everybody in consensus with that?
I
Yeah.
agree.
I'm comfortable.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna go through the vote for this $139,500. We're gonna start again with you, George,
Yes,
Yes.
Carrie, Joanne,
Yes.
Dennis.
Yes,
I vote yes. Candace?
I say yes.
Yes, unanimous. Okay.
Thank you.
The next item listed is the Grange Hall ADA bathrooms, the Narragansett Historical Society. That is a request for $80,000. We've had some good discussion about that and are aware that if we do ask to put this on the warrant, we will definitely need to have be prepared to answer the questions regarding the specifics and the plan.
I'll make a motion that we submit also an article to the selectmen for the town meeting warrant, to provide $80,000. Is that the amount that we need?
Yep.
Okay, $80,000 for, completion of the ADA bathrooms at the Grange Hall for the Narragansett Historical Society.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Joanne. So we have a request for $80,000 for the Grange Hall Historic Rehabilitation Project, ADA bathrooms. Any other discussion?
Yeah, are we doing these as one slate or individual projects when we get to the town meeting?
We don't have control of that.
Okay,
That would
Well,
be-
if it, in my opinion, when we did, we would always put them individually.
mm-hmm,
Then it's the selectmen's warrant. If there appears to be contention on the floor, we can request that the articles be pulled apart and voted
Okay.
individually,
Yeah.
but we would have to make that request. If it got to a vote and we didn't know that was happening and it was voted down, then we could ask to reconsider. And if it's reconsidered, we could ask to pull it apart. So there is a mechanism if they
Definitely.
choose to put it in one big lump sum, which they have been doing the last
Yeah.
10 years.
okay,
That was nerve-wracking the last time.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that's where we are with that. So it's been motion been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. George,
yes,
Carrie,
Yes,
Joanne,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes,
I'll vote yes. Candace?
Yes.
Okay, it's unanimous to put forward to the select board. And then the final project is the cupola preservation, restoration for the town hall building that we're sitting in right now. We had discussed, and Bob provided us with the quotation. We discussed rounding it off to a $30,000 figure.
I'll make a motion to put this to a vote for $30,000 this project.
Okay, we have a motion for $30,000 to restore the cupola, historic cupola on the town hall building.
I'll second,
Seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll do the vote. George,
yes,
Carrie,
yes,
Joanne,
Yes.
Dennis?
yes,
I vote yes. Candace?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous. Okay, so we currently have, we voted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, including our annual appropriation and 5 projects for the town meeting warrant. Jessica and I will pull all that together and submit to Adam for the Board of Selectmen. If something comes up between now and when the warrant closes, we could be asked to call an emergency meeting, but it's my understanding that we were done with the annual town meeting warrant, because the warrants will close, et cetera, et cetera. So is there anything else that anybody feels we really need to be pulling together for town meeting? We don't have any info on it anyway. Okay, so
Who will be
Um,
having the discussion with Mr. Tangway about being prepared for the town meeting?
yeah, I will
You will help
individually,
with that.
yeah. Maybe Jessica will go with me if she's available.
Well, maybe he's watching.
Yeah, somebody from that world is probably gonna see this at some point, so. One other, so rather than, because we were reaching the end of our time, we've done the business that we needed to do. One thing I do want to mention, and I think maybe I copied you guys. The Community Preservation Coalition has been asked to do a, kind of like a CPA refresher type thing for the town of Phillipston. And they're going to be doing that on March 2nd. And Phillipston has indicated that they would invite others from other communities. So, Chase, from the coalition reached out and said, is this something you guys will want to be invited to? And I said, well, we have our meeting on Thursday. I'll let everybody know. So it would be Thursday, March 2nd. It's kind of like a refresher course on what CPC is. It'd be good for anybody it's good for anybody, those of us that have been doing it for a long time and those that are new, to go there. They have just reinvigorated their committee over there in Phillipston. They've kind of laid dormant for a little while, so they're excited to keep the ball rolling. And here's an opportunity for some more professional development for anybody that wants to come, but we will be getting invites for it.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any other new, old, or other business to discuss?
Will you send us a time on this thing?
7 p.m.
Oh, it's a 7 p.m.
But yeah, they're supposed to send a formal invite,
Oh, okay.
I guess.
Yeah, they haven't, I don't think they've done anything in CPC in very, very long.
That would be at the church.
I didn't even know they had a board.
School. Is that school still open?
Yeah, we just had brick basketball. We rented the space in their building.
Oh,
Yeah, Wednesday night.
Yeah,
Kids
they
had a
certainly
ball.
have some needs, the library, et cetera, et cetera. So that's great to
Okay.
hear that they're going again with it. So did we have anybody else that wanted to bring up something for the meeting? Our next meeting will be also on the 9th, but it will be in the month of March. 7 p.m. We're gonna stay with 7 p.m. if that's okay with everybody. Good. Okay. So,
I make a motion that we adjourn the February 9th meeting of the CPA.
okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, George.